Sousa Show. Sports.
Sports don't stop, and neither do we. Welcome to 365 Sports, your home for real conversations, original shows, and coverage that lives where sports actually happen. Join David Smoke, Craig Smoke, and myself, Paul Catalina, for in-depth interviews and local stories to the moments national media misses. 365 Sports brings you the voices, debates, and perspectives fans care about every single day. Subscribe now on YouTube, search 365 Sports, and never miss a moment because sports aren't seasonal. They're 365.
Nobody tells our stories better than our clients.
The difference is stark. I was rear-ended at a stop. I thought I was fine, and then once I got home, I realized it's a lot worse than I thought. I ended up having a ruptured disc. You say you're not hurting, and then an hour later, you're saying you're in all this pain. I just felt like most people would think that I was lying. And that's when I decided to call Daniel Stark. I owe a lot to Daniel Stark. They really got me what I deserved.
The difference is stark.
Just use AMP-Pace.
Pace.
With Ease US, make studio quality voiceovers for your videos online in over 149 languages and dialects, featuring 468 natural AI voices. Customize the volume, mood, and pauses to perfectly match your content. Plus, capture high quality videos with no watermark. Record your screen, webcam, and voice, and save them instantly to your computer. Never been easier to create professional grade videos and voiceovers. Try it today at easeus.com. That's EASEUS.com. Ease US. Since our founding, we've been revolutionizing hair removal with cutting-edge technology and a commitment to empowerment. The U-Like Air 3, launched in 2023, ushers in a new era of sapphire ice cooling technology, offering nearly painless hair reduction in just 3 weeks. Experience the future of hair removal today at ulike.com, because at Ulike, beauty is about looking and feeling good. That's ULIKE.com. Ulike.
Hey, it's Matt Mosley of The Matt Mosley Show. We want you to watch our show every day, 1 to 3 on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. And you get to see big name guests like Gary Patterson, Art Briles, Scott Drew, Doug McNamee, major Cowboys insiders, ESPN legends like Sal Palantonio. When news breaks on Cowboys or Baylor or NFL, we want you to look here first. 1 to 3 weekdays. It's the Matt Mosley Show.
Studios in Waco with my man Garrett Ross, and so excited to be here with you today. Thank you so much to Slovacics, Daniel Stark Injury Lawyers, Socorro Family Ford, still in the family as we fight to keep the relationship alive. More on that maybe in the coming days. We're actually looking to expand our sponsorship now, possibly with the good folks at Socorro Family Ford. And again, I may be over there soon, working on getting a new whip. I'm in a rental right now. Still do not have a car after the accident in December with an 18-wheeler. But me and my friends at Daniel Stark Injury Lawyers we're working on a solution to that. In the meantime, been whipping around in a rental, but I think I might stop by Socorro Family Ford because basketball season's over now. I'm off the road. My last game was Sunday night, the Tulsa NIT game against UNLV. So now my sole purpose is to stay sober, help another alcoholic achieve sobriety. That's what we say in the recovery rooms. But also, it's the Pete Sousa Show, which is great. I love being able to kind of lock in on this because during basketball season, especially when we're just in the heat of, game after game after game, and it's playing after playing and traveling all over the place, it's amazing. And I absolutely love it. And the work I do with NBC and ESPN, I wouldn't trade for anything. I'm like a little kid doing it, but it could take a lot out of you, and it takes some of the focus off this. So now I'm back. Hold on real quick. Ready? Oh, man, did I miss him? No, hold on. Tony.
What's up, brother?
Dude, I'm on the show right now, the Pete Sousa Show.
Oh, I love it, dude. I'm going to tune in.
Tune in. But here's the thing. I want to ask, I'm going to put you on the spot. My mom is really out on Kevin Willard right now. And I think it's got a lot to do.
No, because he's just like, he's socially awkward.
He is socially awkward, and he's not really likable. And she's so not into him. Did you see that? She and this old people are just like us. Her algorithm has changed now to the point where she sent me a video this morning of Kevin Willard screaming and cursing, and it's not real. It's AI.
No, I know. The problem is that, but you know what, though? I mean, Villanova got used to Riley Massimino and Jay Wright. And even Lapis is a super nice guy. They got used to a certain thing. You know what's too bad, I think, honestly? I would have rather they hired the guy from UVA, the guy that was at
Odom, Ryan Odom.
Ryan Odom. He's more in the model of Villanova.
Yes, yes, he is.
Willard's a doer, though, dude. He's fine. He's going to be a winner there. He always wins.
All right, Tony. Well, one thing I wanted to ask you, I wanted to have you on the show because when you were playing at Mount St. Mary's, you guys earned a bid into the NCAA tournament. Tony was a hoops player. Very good one, by the way. Starter on an NCAA tournament team. Your first game in 99, you take on Michigan State, who was in the Sweet 16 once again, and you take on a Tom Izzo team. What was your first impression of taking the court against the team that played that style of basketball?
Well, he was Izzo was just like a tough old school coach, but he was also really generous. He's really just like he's a treasure, man, for college basketball, don't you think?
Oh, I think so too. Yeah, I do.
He really is. He's like an old school coach, but he's also a guy that cares. So he's almost like better than Bobby Knight in a way. Because Bobby Knight was that old school guy, tough guy. I think his players did love him. But Izzo is just a treasure, man. I noticed it right away. He was so, like, gentlemanly and generous with, like, the competition. But then, dude, he was, like, screaming at his players. You could hear him in the practices because he coaches you hard. He's really tough. He's exactly what you want from a college basketball coach.
What was it like? What was their pressure like when you took the floor?
Well, that's the thing. It's like a whole lot, like nothing you nothing you can prepare for all season. Because it was like I said this before. It was like playing a football game.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was like you were going to be bruised when the game was over.
Tone, you're the best. I'll call you later. That was great insight.
See you, buddy.
All right, man.
See you, buddy.
That's Tony. He led the Philly Catholic League in scoring. And it's a great Tony story. So Tony's dad is a legend in the Philadelphia area. Self-made real estate guy from like a rough and tumbled upbringing. So he was gritty, a gritty like Philly guy. Started a real estate company, had some real great success, and became kind of a player in like just the Philly scene and the Philly basketball scene. And he knew all the guys like Billy Cunningham and Rolly Massimino and Phil Martelli, all those guys, Fran Dunphy, So Tony emerges as this legitimate basketball talent. And his dad is hardcore. His dad would, like, I would go over their house and how'd you do in the football game? Well, we lost. Well, you're not ready yet. You're not battle tested. It was like one of those guys. So Tony is leading the Philadelphia Catholic League in scoring. If I have this right, I think I have it right. And he's playing a big game. They're playing, I think, Bonner. And Bonner or Roman Catholic. Roman Catholic is exceptional in the Philly Catholic League. Bonner's so-so, at least back in the day they were. And, we're talking about like Newman Goretti. That's where Rob Wright went to school. I was actually talking to a Tulsa assistant who was mentioning guys from, I think, Roman, just like the great gritty guys that come out of Philly playing hoops. So Tony has got a huge game against Bonner, and his dad gets everybody to come see him. Billy Cunningham, legendary Sixers coach, and all of his friends were there. And Tony, like a goose egg, I think he had like 6 points. And his father was just like, you embarrassed me. It was rough, dude. It was rough. It was like that movie, The Great Santini. R.I.P. Robert Duvall. But, Tone's dad was a legend. And really, the way that he loved on Tone with that tough love and the accountability. I mean, Tony went to – I love the story. He was out of St. Joe's Prep. People were like, he can't play for us. He's 6'5", but he's a little on the slower side, white guy. And people just kind of didn't see how it was going to work. So he went to Mount St. Mary's as a walk-on, like a preferred walk-on. And the guy was a starter and had a scholarship in like a month. And, the rest is history. He had an illustrious career there. So good to get a visit from Tone, a Philly guy. And we're going to get a visit from another East Coast guy, David Baroff, coming up here soon. The Eye on the Storm podcast. David's done phenomenal work. He's joined us before. And his St. John's Redmen, a Red Storm, I guess we call them the Red Storm, right? Yeah, I remember the Redmen. But the St. John's Red Storm are taking on Duke on Friday night, 6 p.m. local time here. I was even thinking about going to Cosm, is that place in North Texas. You know what I'm talking about, Garrett?
Yeah, it's like the mini sphere.
Yeah, and I've seen games there. It's pretty cool. But I'm doing a softball game for Texas Tech virtually, so I can't do it. No, this is an NYPD shirt, K-Fish. And yeah, you know what? It might as well be the Pete Sousa Show t-shirt because we love the NYPD. Especially, and it's ironic. Today we're going to talk to David Baroff. And you know what? Now's a good time for this. Yesterday I wake up and I'm going through, the regular like scroll, and I was getting ready for my show. And I love the old school like radio wars. Like Zach Gelb is coming up later in the day. Zach is totally well versed on these New York radio wars. It's in his family, right? He grew up. His dad was a huge producer for Mike and Mike, and some of those New York radio wars. Like Zach, I'm sure knows exactly what I'm talking about. And a new one took shape yesterday, and it's kind of involved. But I actually have like a thread of experience that can add context to this battle. And if you know New York sports radio at all, Boomer and Geo, they're an absolute monster. It used to be Boomer and Carton. Boomer and Geo, they crush it. Greg Giannotti is very talented. He's funny, and he's just like a guy who has really found his place in the world, just kicking ass on morning radio with Boomer Esiason. Now, he worked not necessarily with Brandon Tierney, but like down the hall from him for many years. Brandon Tierney is a New York guy, played baseball at Marist, knew after graduation he wasn't going to play pro ball. So he was going to focus on being a sports talk guy, a sports talk superstar. And he started out, he went to Vegas, I think Providence, I think he went to Detroit, and he ended up back at ESPN, back in New York City on ESPN radio there. Then he was on The Fan in New York City, then CBS National with Tiki Barber, then back on The Fan. That was his most recent stint. So while Brandon Tierney, who, by the way, and this is a perfect segue into our conversation with David Baroff, Brandon Tierney is the color guy for St. John's radio broadcast, right? So last year, Greg Giannotti played a joke on Brandon Tierney, and basically he was a part of a prank that they called into BT's show, and forgive me if I'm not like right on every detail, but I'm right overall. He called into Brandon Tierney's show and told a story where it made it look like Brandon Tierney was drinking with the players, St. John's players when he was on the road. And Brandon Tierney, who is kind of, I'm not going to say he's buttoned up. He knows how to laugh at himself, but he's about business. I mean, And for my money, he's kind of an icon in the sports talk game. I mean, just over many years, he has achieved great success on the national level and on the New York City level, right? And the New York metropolitan area. And you know how big that monster is, New York sports talk. So recently, so Brandon, let's get back to the story. So Brandon didn't take kindly to that practical joke, because it is. And look, I know this because I call games with college players. I've traveled with college players as working with USA Basketball. I actually had a moment. This is back when I was drinking. And I was with this like women's team, like a women's college team. And, you know, like we had to make sure that they were not drinking. That was a huge deal. And you couldn't drink even in the same, like anywhere near them, because it was not going to look good. So this joke they're playing on Brandon Tierney kind of strikes a chord with BT. He's like, you know what, dude, that's not actually that funny. And it came to light recently that Greg Giannotti was somehow a player in that. So during an interview, because now Brandon Tierney, I think wherever St. John's was for the first and second round, Tierney's with them. So and I'll get to a key part of the story in a second, but so he's with the team traveling with St. John's, and he's like, hey, talks to people at the Fan where he used to work. I'll get to that in a moment. And he says, hey guys, I'm available. I'm out here if you guys need me. Right. And the people at the Fan are like, yeah. And they throw him on one show. And one of the shows he's on, I think it's with Evan Cohen, I'm not positive, but he called Greg Giannotti a bad teammate. He said he's a bad teammate because he was thinking about that prank call, right, which had come to light. So another serious backdrop to all this is just recently, Craig Carton, who was kind of like relieved of his duties. He had the morning show at Fox, like Breakfast Ball, whatever. And Craig Carton's a superstar, right? The guy that went to prison for the gambling problem. He was on with Boomer before. So when he became a free agent, WFAN jumped right on him. And so that lineup-wise kind of booted Brandon Tierney off the lineup. He was like, I think mid-morning, I think he was 10 to 12, him and Sal Licata. Sal, wildly talented guy too. So Brandon lost his job at the Fan like not too long ago. And Brandon called Greg Giannotti a bad teammate like last week, I think maybe Friday on one of the shows on the Fan. He said, oh yeah, Giannotti's a bad teammate, referencing that prank. Well, yesterday morning, Giannotti on Boomer and Carton, which is like going on the Tonight Show in 1980 as far as like New York City radio is concerned, he uses his own show as a platform to just assassinate the character of Brandon Tierney. And he goes in and he says, hey, you know, Brandon Tierney, you're the bad teammate. Nobody liked working with you. Producers, you know, on-air talent. And he really got into him about like his character. So then, but basically and this is where I come in a moment. He basically said that Brandon Tierney would like shit on guys who were like lower level dudes, which is like just a cardinal sin. And Brandon Tierney on his own, he's got a BT show. I forget the name of it. I'll look it up right now just so I get it right, because if you want to hear it, you can go check it out. Let me see. Yeah, everybody, by the way, you don't have to look hard to find information on this. His Brandon Tierney's YouTube show is BT. It's just Brandon. Honestly, you just look. It's BT Unleashed. Oh no, Unlikable Unleashed. BT Unleashed. So it's BT Unleashed. That's the YouTube page, and he's got 18,007 subscribers. He just started this venture. I mean, he'll have 100,000 in a minute, and everybody comments. Everybody's involved. People are paying attention to this new show he has, and so he fires back and just kind of goes into a long thing about how, you know, he kept it above board with talking about Greg Giannotti. Was not hard on him at all, but just took him to task for kind of torching Tierney's character. And again, you can watch all that it's yesterday's BT Unleashed show. Okay, this is where I come in. In 2014, I got sober in 2011, and I was putting together a career of broadcasting. I had done play-by-play in the NBA at the time, D-League. I've talked to you guys about this for a few years. And then I was doing stuff. The team I was working for, which was an affiliate of the Brooklyn Nets, moved. Okay, so they move. I'm kind of screwed. I don't have a job. but I actually reached out to contacts in Charlotte, and I started to work for the Hornets. I did some radio for them, like sideline reporting and studio hosting, and also like a pregame show. And during this time, I was doing whatever I could to make ends meet and get more involved. IMG, they had a studio in Winston-Salem, like an hour and a half from Charlotte. And IMG controlled all of the college broadcasts pretty much. And they would hire personnel and talent for pregame shows, like whether it was St. John's or Duke, whatever. So I worked with Brandon Tierney and John Minko. They were the talent for St. John's games. And I was the St. John's pre-halftime, post-game show host and producer over my skis. I was decent on the air. I didn't know how to produce. I'm dealing with John Minko, who has been in like the 1% of broadcasting environments in New York City. You know, this is a guy who did news reads for Mike and Mike forever. He's just big time, right? Like he's New York City radio royalty. So now he's got some schmuck back in Winston-Salem trying to get him on and off the air and playing sound at the wrong time. And, hey, Pete, what's going on back there? And I know Brandon Tierney was with him like, man, this guy doesn't know what he's doing. And a couple times I would screw up on the air. But remember, these guys are New York City guys. And so it became apparent pretty early on that maybe they didn't have the best fit for the producer job back in Winston-Salem. Not one time did Brandon Tierney say, hey, what the F is going on back there? Or like, hey, get your SHIT together. Never happened. Not once, okay? If anything, at the end of the year, he gave me a pep talk and told me from hearing me on the air that, yo, man, you might have a future in this thing. You just kind of keep pounding, okay? Unsolicited. And I never saw the guys because I was in a studio. You know, and that was the kind of stuff I needed at that time. And it kind of helped to move me along. There's another story, and this guy is actually a really, I wouldn't say good friend, a friend of mine now, and I've never brought it up. Actually, I won't say his name, but a guy who's a friend of mine in the radio industry now. He's a powerhouse voice of a big-time program. And I ended up covering for someone on this guy's coach's show. It was him and the coach. They were at a bowl game, right? And I was like screwing up because I wasn't really qualified to produce. And the guy's like, we got a hard out. And I was like, hey, and this is God's honest truth. This is on me. I'm like, what's a hard out? He's like, you don't know what a hard out is? And I'm back in the studio like, oh my God. I'm since like really friendly with this guy. He's helped me out. I don't have the heart to tell him how he completely took me to task one time and made me crawl to the bathroom afterwards. But like, so, and I deserved that at the time. Like I've always told you guys, like I played football, you know, athlete, like I'm ready to take the lumps, right? Like come at me hard. Like that's fine. I respond to that actually. So Brandon Tierney had every right to freak out on me at certain, let's say several times over the year. He didn't do it one time, not one time. And if anything, he was encouraging to me. So I will call bullshit on Greg Giannotti saying Brandon Tierney is a bad teammate. I'll say Brandon Tierney is a good teammate and probably a leader of men. And I experienced that. And now I get to I'm calling games nationally on NBC and ESPN, and I have this show and we're doing well. And guys like Brandon Tierney, who really like, he had so much juice in my life at that time. If he had crushed me, you know, it would have been something else I would have had to be resilient about. But he told me what I needed to hear in the time, which was something positive. And it kept me going because I was driving 90 minutes to and from a studio I was living in Charlotte, driving back to, Winston-Salem. I see David's here. Yeah. So we're talking St. John's. We're going to take a quick break and then we'll come back. We've got David Baroff. I own the Storm podcast. David, you're going to have to go back and listen to the open of the show because I legit just got into the Greg Giannotti and Brandon Tierney radio war that's going on right now. I'll chat with you about that maybe at the back end of our conversation. After this quick break, we got David Baroff. We're talking St. John's and Duke. Stay with us.
Looking for football talk without the fluff? It's Down and Dirty with Scott Mitchell, a former NFL quarterback breaking down the game from the inside, plus real conversations about sports, leadership, life, and everything in between. No hot takes for clicks, just honest analysis, strong opinions, and stories you won't hear anywhere else. Football talk and more, the way it's supposed to be. Subscribe now to Down and Dirty with Scott Mitchell on YouTube.
It doesn't matter if your investment budget is small or big. All you need is Benzinga Pro and its powerful news alerts, price tracking, and portfolio monitoring. Subscribe now, and we'll skyrocket your portfolio today.
Experience with the Mosley MD hair regrowth kit was amazing. It was easy to use. It let me take off my hat. I could go in public and have my picture taken and feel normal again.
MosleyMD.com.
Join us at golfpartnerusa.com and discover why we're the trusted choice for golf lovers worldwide. That's GOLFPARTNERUSA.com. Golf Partner. Experience the future of secure private cloud storage with Internix. Protect your files with end-to-end encryption, ensuring your data stays private and accessible only to you. That's INTERNXT.com today.
Apollo Neuro is a new kind of wearable that helps your body recover from stress, that helps you calm down and feel better. You sleep better, and you can get back to being yourself. Learn more at apolloneuro.com.
Protect your online privacy with NordVPN. Browse securely, access content from anywhere, and keep your data safe with military-grade encryption. NordVPN.com. That's NORDVPN.com.
Our patented handles were launched in 2018. We continue to push the boundaries of strength training. Join us in making your training more natural and effective. Visit Engels90.com to learn more and revolutionize your workout.
Dive into adventure with Scuba.com, your ultimate destination for top-tier scuba and snorkeling gear. Whether you're a beginner or a pro, trust Scuba.com for the best in diving equipment and expert guidance. Explore now at Scuba.com. That's SCUBA.com. Scuba.com. At Fullwell, we bring together the expertise of registered dietitians, MDs, and OBGYNs to give you the best fertility support. Fullwell, your trusted partner on your fertility journey. Visit us at FullwellFertility.com. Experience the perfect blend of exquisite craftsmanship and life-changing technology with Gevi. Every product is built with precision, featuring specialized parts that ensure durability, efficiency, and safety. Upgrade your everyday with Gevi. Visit us at GEVI.com to discover more.
It's the Pete Sousa Show.
With San, owning iconic furniture no longer requires paying a premium. With over 15,000 satisfied customers worldwide, we've proven that high-quality furniture doesn't have to come with a high price tag. Explore our collection today at san.com.
At Covers & All, we've revolutionized protective solutions with cutting-edge, customizable covers, tarps, and curtains. We deliver premier protection at affordable prices and express shipping. Visit coversandall.com today for the perfect fit, guaranteed to last.
Hi, my name is Mike Lacey. I'm with Beyond the Game, a new podcast to the Rogue Media Network. Just when you thought you'd had a little bit too much about BYU, here we are to provide you even a little bit more. I, as part of the BYU group, am grateful that we're part of the Big 12 and really grateful that we're part of the Rogue Media Network. Thank you.
All right, we're about to bring in my main man. This guy has the most, I would say, the most high-profile St. John's and Big East basketball podcast and show you're going to find out there. And the numbers don't lie. He's number one and number one with us. David Baroff coming on, joining us, Eye of the Storm podcast. David, man, welcome back, brother.
Well, Pete, thank you for having me back. If I'm back, that means one thing. The Johnnies are still playing, and that's a blip.
The Johnnies are still playing. Hey, by the way, you missed it. I legit – The radio war going on right now in New York City with Greg Giannotti and Brandon Tierney, okay? So I can tell, I have personal experience. When I was just starting off in this broadcasting thing, I was a horseshit producer for IMG, which actually had me on St. John's pre, half, and post with Minko and BT. I was terrible. I got better. BT couldn't have been any cooler to me all year long. And at the end of the year, he was like, yo, dude, keep hammering away. You got a future in this. And that's a good teammate. Am I wrong?
No, I mean, look, when you talk about the radio wars in New York, everybody knows about ESPN radio versus WFAN. That's kind of all that was the rage in the mid 2000s, early 2000s. And it was Mike Francesa and Mad Dog versus Michael Kay all the time. I don't know if you want to call it radio wars anymore. I don't know if there's that big of a appetite for it, honestly, here in New York. But that being said, I mean, I can't speak to it about Greg and I don't know him, but I do know BT. And listen, you got to be tough to survive in this landscape, and you don't want anybody talking junk about you and whatever. And listen, BT has handled himself in New York for a long time, and if you're going to take a swing at him, he's going to take a swing back, and vice versa. So it is what it is. But I honestly, I'm way more focused on the.
I figured you were. All right, let's look. I wasn't putting you on the spot there. I was just sharing a story. But tell BT I said hello, even though he may totally forget who I am. Tell him I'm calling national games now for ESPN and NBC. And a dude like that put wind in my sails at a time in need. So tell him I said thanks. All right, Duke versus Pitino. I mean, this is it, baby. We couldn't be any more excited. You guys are trying to get your first Elite Eight since '99. The hype around this game is second to none. And the confidence that St. John's has to come into this game with, you've had a front row seat watching this develop. They haven't lost but one game since, January 3rd? How have you seen this?
Two. We lost the UConn game where we got our doors blown off. So 2 games since January 3rd.
2 games since January 3rd. How have you seen the confidence of this team play out on the basketball court? Like when you're watching them, you're seeing, oh my God, these guys have serious mojo going on, and it's showing in the way they're playing.
So we always look for what's going to be the turning point of a season. And it's funny because Rick Pitino actually mentioned it the other night. He saw a big change after the first Providence loss and then the fight that happened in Providence in the game on the road where Duncan Powell tried to take Bryce Hopkins' head off. And he said the way that he saw the entire team get behind Bryce Hopkins was such a positive message for him of what he really has in this group. And he said it over and over this year that this is one of his favorite collections of kids that he's ever had. Everybody is selfless. There's no ego here. And they are really playing for one common mission. And that's what you're seeing right now. I think you needed that in the Kansas game because of how difficult it was, and things got really dicey there at the end. And Bryce Hopkins is somebody that's playing the best basketball of his career right now. I truly believe that. I know he was amazing his sophomore year at Providence. I think right now, with how big these games are and how much is on the line, Bryce Hopkins, who hit 6 of 6, a career high from deep against Kansas, is playing the best basketball of his career. And I think he's a huge reason why St. John's is where they are right now. As far as the collective confidence, when you got a guy who's got church bells between his legs, I don't know how much more confident you can get than that. And it all starts with a Hall of Famer on the sidelines and Zuby Ejiofor, because he's the he's the straw that stirs the drink.
No, he sure is, baby, and he has been phenomenal. Although Mike Francesa seems to think that he left Kansas because of Joel Embiid. That's my favorite going around right now.
Classic Mike Francesa.
I love him. All right, so what for you was the biggest surprise about that Kansas win?
Well, it starts with a 14-point lead getting dwindled to a tie game. At one point you're looking at it, you're like, oh my God, you're going to blow out Kansas to go to the Sweet 16. But I think the biggest shock, honestly, is the guy with 0 points is the guy that takes your shot at the end of the game. And more than anything, he told Rick Pitino, hey, it's time to change the play. We don't got time to run what you originally wanted to run. Let's run power. That's the name of the play. And for a guy who has scored no points in an entire game, was pretty cold for the last week and a half, especially from beyond the arc, for him to have the moxie and the wherewithal to understand the situation around what's happening in the game in that moment, 3.9 seconds to go. That was the most surprising thing. And then it catches Kansas off guard because I think they thought the lefty point guard was going to go left and he goes right, and they seize part. It's one-on-one. Dylan Darling makes the shot of a lifetime that's going to be remembered for his grandkids and his grandkids and his grandkids. And he's made probably million for the rest of his life off of that one shot alone. He's got deals with Wendy's and TurboTax already. That's what a shot like that does for you, and it changes the lives of your St. John's fans. It changes the lives for you. That guy never has to pay for a drink in his life in New York again.
I'm going to stop you right there, Garrett. Can we play that sound? Now, this is from the Eye on the Storm podcast from earlier in this, I think it was February. The voice you're about to hear, the golden pipes of David Baroff. I want you guys to listen to this.
Dylan Darling might not be the flashiest point guard. Certainly not the fastest. He's definitely not the biggest. But Justin, my goodness, Dylan Darling wants the damn ball, and he ain't scared of the moment. And that's the kind of guard that wins in March. That's the kind of guard that ends up on one shining moment, because he's going to be the one that's going to swing his church bells all up and down the court and hit a shot when it matters, because he did it last night against number 3 UConn. He will do it on any other big stage. He has shown us that he can do that all throughout this 9-game winning streak. He's a winning basketball player, and St. John's is very lucky to have him.
All right, David, you know what we say in the Catholic Church, 2 more miracles, brother, and that's it. You're St. David. I mean, what about Dylan Darling all year long led you to believe that he would seize a moment like he did on Sunday?
It starts way before the season starts. It starts when he came here to St. John's. And I spoke to the staff, and I have a text message from the staff where it literally said, thank God we have Dylan Darling. That's how important he is to what this roster was. Obviously, there were point guard questions coming into the season. That is what he started to mean to this team. Then there was all the conversation leading up to what kind of guy and player that he is in the offseason. And there was an article actually written, I think today, from Zach Brazil of the New York Post, where he talks about his former coach. And that was Coach Kyle Smith at Stanford, who said, listen, I'm sorry, not Stanford. He's at Stanford now, but he was at Washington when he recruited Dylan Darling initially, and said this kid is the toughest kid in the world, and he will fit right in. You're going to love him. And Bob Walsh was Coach Smith's roommate in college, so that's that connection there. It all starts there. If you have that toughness, if you have that desire to want the ball in the situation, if you're not going to wilt under pressure, if you can handle tough coaching from Rick Pitino, you can make it in New York, and you can make it at St. John's. And that's what's happening. And he's shown it throughout this season that he is not scared of the moment. Give him the damn ball. And that's why I felt so confident in him. He's shown it throughout the year. He had that shooting slump early on. He goes on a 2-day shooting course with Rick Pitino. He changes his just a little bit more arc on that shot, and he starts drilling threes. He shoots like 60% over the next 2 weeks. It's incredible. He's a gamer, and he's the guy that is built for these kind of moments. So it's not a surprise that he made it. And perhaps it's not a surprise that he took it. If you actually think about it, sure it was. But, man, if you've been following it all season and you see the kind of player he is, that's the guy that handles that moment. And, well, greatest sporting moment of my St. John's life was
and you know what, David? You bring up a great point, because when he was at Washington State with Kyle Smith, he actually had some big moments. They went to the tournament. They won a game. I think they were close to making the Sweet 16. The dude is clutch. Right? He is. And we saw that again on Sunday. Where is Rick Pitino in all this? As far as the success of this team, what do you think is the biggest thing that he has brought out of them that's enabled them to break through? Because now we're talking about St. John's 2 games away from the Final Four. What's his biggest role in all this?
He has instilled the will to win and the hatred of losing. And everybody has bought into it. You hear the players say, it's miserable after a loss around here. They are afraid of Rick Pitino, what he's going to do, the tenor of the practice. But that's what greatness does. I remember, I had Peyton Siva on my podcast, and he tells me how they were terrified because Rick used to walk along the concourse at practice at Louisville, and they wouldn't know where he is, and they couldn't see him, but he was watching everything. And so while he is just an ever-presence, he has instilled the culture of what it takes to win. And every single player on St. John's is better than they were before. And you're seeing that because the success of St. John's is higher than it has been since, 27 years at this point. And then going back to that, we're talking about Louis Carnesecca in 1985.
Back to the matchup we're talking about at hand here coming up on Friday. How can St. John's take advantage of Duke's limited depth? Like, what do you see the Johnnies doing there?
Yeah, the depth is a concern. Duke goes about 7 guys deep, and it all starts with the Boozer. I mean, he's the king. But I'm going to tell you right now, I think the worry is Isaiah Evans more or perhaps equally as Boozer. So you got to worry about him. Who are you going to match up with? Do you put Zuby Ejiofor, Dylan Mitchell on Boozer? Then who's going to guard Evans, who's a 6'6" wing? That's the issue. Now, the depth is something that's concerning because of St. John's play style. St. John's defense, you saw it against Kansas. They absolutely took over that game because of defense, especially in the first half. They did it against Northern Iowa as well. The defense comes to play. They're going to press you 94 feet. Zuby Ejiofor is going to pick you up 94 feet. That's just how this team plays. I'm curious if they're going to use that and try to whittle them down throughout the game. Now, the other factor here is Duke plays the same way. They are not a team that's going to let you inbound the ball and be, kind of just moseying it on down the court. There's going to be a tough defensive battle in this. These are two teams that are top 13 in KenPom in defense. It is going to be a battle. But the Johnnies, they got a real fighter's chance. I think most people don't really think that they can do it, but I do think St. John's, the way that they're playing right now, have a real legitimate shot to knock off Duke in the Sweet 16. And listen, Rick Pitino's the head coach. He's 12-1 in games in the Sweet 16.
All right, give us a reason why you're a little worried about this game. Like, what's your biggest fear surrounding St. John's headed into this matchup?
Well, the biggest fear is a slow shooting start that rears its ugly head like it was before the start of the Big East tournament. If they don't get out fast, in the last games from the Big East tournament until the game against Kansas, St. John's is 43-0 to start the games. That fast start helps alleviate a lot of pressure, takes the crowd out of games. That is going to be really important. I'm also super curious what the crowd split's going to be in Washington, D.C. I know there's a lot of Johnny fans trying to make it, but it's the most expensive ticket on the market right now. So hopefully that certainly comes to fruition. The worry is obviously, can you stop all of these amazing weapons on Duke, and how do you match up? This is probably the most talented team they are going to be facing all year. They're the number 1 seed for a reason. You got Cam Boozer, you got Patrick Gamba, you got these bigs who are really impressive. Dame Sarr is a pro, he can play. And again, Isaiah Evans terrifies me. Now, where you can actually excel is St. John's pressure can really give Duke problems. They have been turning the ball over a lot without Caleb Foster. I do not think he's going to play. I know there's some reports that are saying that, he might have this miracle comeback. No shot. This guy just had surgery. He's not going to be suiting back up after surgery 19 days. I just don't think so. So Caden Boozer, who has filled in really nicely recently for him, is prone to turn the ball over. There is a high turnover percentage now since Caleb Foster is gone. So look for that to possibly be a factor. St. John's thrives when they get live ball turnovers, and let's see if that can be a deciding factor for St. John's to shock the world and try to get to the Sweet 16.
I love, David, how you touched on the geographic area, right? Like, Duke has actually played one game at this arena before this year when they took on Michigan, but it's obviously not far from New York City. And folks, St. John's folks got money. Duke folks have money. Like, the prices are going to go sky high because both of those fan bases are going to do everything they can to make it there. And like you said, sort of try to outnumber the other one. What is the biggest advantage for St. John's coming into this game?
I think it's the front court, just in general of how they've been playing. When you've got a front court of Zuby Ejiofor, Dylan Mitchell, Bryce Hopkins, and Ruben Prey. Look for Ruben Prey. Played really well against Kansas. I think he's going to be really important to try and stop this front court. I think it's the depth. I really do think it's St. John's depth. They can look down that bench and go 8 or 9 deep if necessary. That could play a factor here. So I really think, and Pete, St. John's is playing really well right now. Are they playing like the best team in the country? Probably. Through that first half of the Kansas game, you could make an argument that there's no team hotter and playing better than St. John's right now. I know when you get to this kind of a level and you're in the Sweet 16, every game's going to be good and every opponent's going to be good. Well, you're up against the number 1 overall seed. It's not going to be easy. It's not supposed to be easy. But that's why they throw the ball in the air.
As somebody who watches the game with a different perspective, right? Not only are you obviously, you live and die with St. John's, but you're watching it with a keen basketball eye. What did you think about Darren Peterson?
I thought that obviously impressive. The way that he can get to his spot is second to none. His fearlessness and ability to hit the three. It looks like Kobe out there. I see the comparisons. I get it. But you have to question the availability. What they say is that's your biggest asset. How much does this guy, can he play? The full body cramp stuff that we talked about all year. Can he play? But man, he can get to his spot. He can draw fouls. I think that's going to be impressive at the next level. Let's see how much he can get away with it in the pros. I think he's a top 3 pick. I don't think he should be the number 1 pick. I would go AJ DeBonsa over him. Honestly, I would go Cam Boozer number 2 over him as well, and I would pick Peterson 3. It's just there's some red flags there, but seeing him, the way that he moves on the court, the way that he can take over a game, it's scary stuff. And if he's not 100% and he's doing what he's doing now at not 100%, then good luck the rest of the way in the next 15 years.
What's it like right now in New York City around the Johnnies? Because that's something only you can describe or somebody else in the city can describe. When St. John's is good, it takes over the best city in the world. Can you describe what that's like inside that city right now?
St. John's is not just a story right now. St. John's is the story right now. And that speaks volumes to the culture shift in St. John's. Obviously, that's the Rick Pitino effect. When you win in this city, everyone tunes in. You're on the front page. You're on the back page. You're leading every single TV show. There's an appetite for a winner. And St. John's has won in a really big way the last 2 years. And when you win the way that they won on Sunday, you captivate the nation. But more so, you captivate your own audience more so. There are people that are going out of their way to make sure that they get to Washington. There are people that are going to go out of their way to make sure their kids are coming with them to Washington because they want to see history. And that is what this is all about. It's building the momentum of St. John's. It is continuing to prop up the school. It's continuing to prop up the program. And that's what we have been waiting for so long. The hype is real. I'm walking my dog the other day. True story. I'm walking my dog in a St. John's t-shirt, and a random neighbor that I have not seen goes, "Hey, St. John's looks good." That's what it's about. People that just have never spoken to you or talked to you about it before have taken notice. That's what happens when the Johnnies are good in this town.
Somebody that you probably walked by a gazillion times, right? Not said one word to finally, "Hey, St. John's looks good." That's amazing. One thing I do want to impress upon fans of St. John's that I think Rick Pitino will have so squared away, but some coaches are surprised that this happens. And South Carolina played Duke in the regionals the year they went to the Final Four. And I was having this conversation with Perry Clark, who at that time was an assistant with South Carolina. And he had played Duke a million times when he was an assistant at Georgia Tech and when he was a head coach at Miami. But he said that South Carolina got blitzed by Duke in the first half, and they were shell-shocked. They were kind of scared of the Duke logo, the Duke persona. And Perry said at halftime, as an assistant, I had to get in these guys' face, yo, F Duke, F the uniform, F all of that. It's a big hype machine, dude. You guys are better. St. John's, you're not going to have that problem with Rick Pitino as your head coach. There's little things there that I truly believe are eliminated by Rick Pitino and his experience in all this. So last question for you. What do you foresee happening on Friday night? Clearly you got the crystal ball over there. You're like Biff from Back to the Future 2. I'm looking for that goddamn encyclopedia. Maybe you can make us all a lot of money. What do you think is going to happen?
The last time I made a public prediction, I think I looked really stupid because I think I picked St. John's to knock off UConn, and they ended up losing by 32.
People forget that shit. Don't worry about that. Tell me about now.
I think St. John's wins the game and goes to the Elite Eight. I think St. John's is playing in a way right now that their confidence is at an all-time high. I think you mentioned it. I think the depth issue for Duke is something that can be exploited, and the way that St. John's wins is turning you over. I think you saw they turned over Kansas 16 times in that game. They made Kansas look really pedestrian in that first half. Can you do that against Duke? I don't know. But I wouldn't bet against St. John's. I think they're very confident right now. I think Ian Jackson having 2 back-to-back games where he played really well against Northern Iowa and Kansas is really important. The guards are going to have to step up in this game because they're going to be up against length. Josan Sannon, Ian Jackson, Oziah Sellers, and of course, Mr. Churchbell's Dylan Darling will have to have big games. You can't just have one of them in this game. And of course, the front court. How do you deal with Duke's size? Well, I'll take St. John's 4 against any 4 in the country. That can be a homer take. I don't care. Zuby Ejiofor is an All-American. Zuby Ejiofor is one of the 10 best players in this country. He's the captain of St. John's. He will not let St. John's lose this game. And I think Bryce Hopkins is playing his best of his career. I think the Johnnies win. I think it's a close game, maybe 4 to 6 points. The Johnnies are going to the Elite Eight.
David, we're going to have you on when they make the Final Four. All right? You promise you'll come back on if they go to the Final Four?
I will talk to you from Indianapolis.
My man. Hey, David Baroff, thank you so much for your time. You do a kick-ass job. The podcast is Eye on the Storm. Check it out. We'll be talking to you soon, brother. I believe too.
Thanks, Pete.
All right, man. Take it easy, David. That's as good as it gets if you're looking for an analysis and a preview of St. John's Duke. David Baroff, check him out. Honestly, follow him on Twitter. Check out the podcast. The guy is the real deal. And again, I really think we'll be talking to him again here pretty soon. The Pete Sousa Show presented by Slovacics. Steps aside, we'll come back and wrap it up after this.
Are you looking for top shelf sports talk about the West Virginia Mountaineers, where you can get objective analysis, but with the passion of a fan? Well, look no further than right here at Couz's Corner. I am Justin Couz Walker, the host of Couz's Corner, and you can find my show on demand over at YouTube. Most shows are uploaded by 5 p.m. Eastern Time. You can also check out my live post-game reaction shows. My special guest interviews, you can find it all on YouTube at Couz's Corner. Go check it out.
With a focus on performance, design, and customer service, we're here to help you work smarter, not harder. Join us on our journey to simplify your world. Visit acasis.com today. That's ACASIS.com today.
Designed to elevate the off-road experience, enabling adventurers to conquer any terrain. For 50 years, you've trusted us on your toughest recoveries, to your most breathtaking destinations, and in countless unforgettable memories.
We offer fast shipping, exceptional customer support, and furniture solutions that stand up to high-traffic environment. Elevate your space with BizChair's vast selection of stylish, reliable, and cost-effective furniture. Visit us today at bizchair.com to transform your business.
But boy, it looked effortless.
Man, watch this.
Layups, floaters, threes. He was like an unsolvable equation.
I was born on this.
His resilience, his strength, his belief, adversity never stood a chance.
Know your power.
VivoSun's mission is to empower growers with stylish and effective products, making indoor growing accessible and enjoyable for everyone. Visit vivosun.com today and get started making growing plants and vegetables easy and automatic.
WhyPersonalLoans.com. Request a loan anytime. Our partners can offer loans up to $35,000 with varying rates and terms. Review your loan offer with no obligation and decide what works for you. Visit personalloans.com today.
So all you have to do is tap your Popple to the back of someone's phone, like that, and they instantly get your social media and contact info right on the screen. They don't need an app or a Popple to receive your info. So get to your Popple today and start impressing everyone you meet. Make it pop.
Is your Mac running slow? Mac Booster 8 is your all-in-one solution to clean up 20 types of junk files. Get your Mac running like new again with Mac Booster 8. Visit macboost.net today.
It's the Pete Sousa Show.
Farmhouse offers natural treats and chews made with quality products that support family farm, regenerative agriculture, and humane farming practices. Give your dog the best with wholesome, organic ingredients that promote health and happiness. Shop now at farmhounds.com.
Circulon C1 Series Clad with Scratch Defense Non-Stick. Maximize cooking, minimize cleaning. Discover the unmatched durability and elegance scratch-free, worry-free, forever.
The Pete Sousa Show is presented by Slovaceks, and we also want to thank our good friends at Bumblebee Blinds. That's right. One-stop shop for custom window treatments. They specialize in shades, blinds, shutters, curtains. Bumblebee Blinds stands behind their service and products. Schedule your design collaboration today. That's right. You collaborate with them. Go ahead, bumblebeeblinds.com. It is bumblebeeblinds.com. Also, Lake Waco Golf Club. Make sure you guys get involved if you're in Central Texas and you want to get out on the links. Today, it is beautiful. And even my buddies up in the Northeast, they're starting to get after it and play golf. So what I want you to do is you go to LakeWacoGC.com. That is LakeWacoGC.com. Beyond affordable deals, okay? Beyond affordable deals. Get involved with Lake Waco Golf Club, excuse me. You can go there. They got great. I always say you do the Bill Self thing, right? You play golf. You don't want to bet on it, but maybe you do a little pro shop wager, right? So when you get your when you give somebody their comeuppance on the golf course, you stop at the pro shop afterwards and they buy you a shirt or whatever, right? That's a great way to not only tap into friendly competition, but also everybody walks away happy, right? You get or not everybody, but the guy who beat you has to get you something from the pro shop. Make sure you go to Lake Waco Golf Club, and make sure you go to LakeWacoGolfClub.com, LakeWacoGC.com. They've got this golf course. It's nestled right up on the northeast side of Lake Waco. It's beautiful. 18 holes, and then you got an 18-hole par 3 course where it's actually both of them are executive holes, so you got to check them out, okay? A lot of good stuff going on there at Lake Waco Golf Club. And we got Andrew in the house, our guy. What up? Andrew's here. Paul Catalina's here. Everybody's here in our great tree house. We got Garrett over there, and we're going to have some fun today. Cluck, cluck, cluck. So there was another thing I wanted to get to. Hold on, I have it in my notes here. Let me see, because I was last night. Oh, I know what I wanted to talk to you guys about. It's actually kind of New York based, if you guys are still there. So I meant to ask Baroff about this, and maybe I'll text him. There is a reason why, and I mentioned this yesterday. The Pitino turnaround is all about Pitino in every single way. And here's what I mean, okay? Rick Pitino was so successful at such a young age that, and it's not something I don't think his work is based around or whatever, but it's not something he ever, I think, set out to accumulate, but wealth has really come into Pitino's life, big time wealth. I mean, you look at some of those contracts, Kentucky, the Celtics, Louisville, a lot of money and all kinds of other sponsorships and side deals. And like, he's very shrewd and he's surrounded by guys in New York City who came up with him. Like Rick Pitino didn't get wealthy and then tap into a bunch of rich guys that he didn't know. A lot of the guys he came up with were young and hungry, whether they were business guys, whether they were coaches, whether they were guys who ultimately ended up in the racehorse business. Rick's got a lot of wealthy friends. And I think that it's almost like, you ever hear when, like, you know, you walk into a restaurant and you see a beautiful woman, and she's sitting with a guy that's like a 4, right? Or a 3. And you're kind of like, man, if I had that guy's money, you know, I would be with a woman that's just like that. Well, you don't have that guy's money, and there's reasons behind that. Whatever that guy's doing something right, okay? And that money actually is very attractive to women because it shows stability, right? It shows like that they will have somebody that's like almost like a protector. It kind of taps into all those like old school like things that, like, you know, man, woman, you know, all that, right? Like, so I think a guy that accumulates wealth and has money, that's an aura, right? That leads to attraction. So the money side of the Rick Pitino situation, not only does he have money, but he's got friends with incredible wealth, right? And everybody knows Mike Rapoli is a St. John's grad, and it's kind of baked in, right? I mentioned this yesterday to the St. John's situation, but nobody outside of Rick Pitino is going to bring that wealth out of Mike Rapoli to pour into St. John's, right? And it doesn't stop there. There's many other people who we don't know who they are, right? Who are contributing to a St. John's Collective, who are contributing to a St. John's NIL deal. Like, there's a lot going on that Rick Pitino brings to the table that I don't even think the average college basketball fan was planning on Rick bringing to the table. But that, and then you go ahead and you add into the whole mix and recipe that Rick Pitino is a basketball savant. And I think more so when he was younger, but I still think it definitely applies today. You know, I can remember talking to a buddy of mine when I was working at USA Basketball, and he was on the basketball ops side. And his brother actually played for Pitino at Providence. And he was educating me. This is back in 2004 now. But he was like educating me on how there are different coaches and they motivate by different things. But there was no question about it that Rick Pitino motivated through fear. That's not the case anymore. I think it still is in there somewhere. But you have to be able to pivot and relate to players and also to take full advantage of what is going on in basketball where you can find an advantage. Like when Rick Pitino was with the New York Knicks, he decided before anybody else decided this, our talent is, I mean, we got Pat Ewing, but outside of that, it's meh. We got Trent Tucker. We got a bunch of guys who can launch. We're even going to let Gerald Wilkins shoot threes. And we are going to drop a bomb on you, right? As, what was it? The Gap Band, I think. That was one of their songs, Drop a Bomb on You. But that's what they did. I actually remember a video of the New York Knicks hitting threes to the song You Drop a Bomb on Me, if I'm not mistaken. But that wasn't shtick. That was a way that Pitino figured out that he could beat everybody else with a strategy. And he did it at Kentucky with the press. Like, he continues to find ways in basketball, in a basketball landscape that is ever changing, right, to dominate the landscape. That's special, dude. And it's an all-encompassing deal with this guy. He brings motivation by fear. He brings brilliance. He brings money, right? He brings confidence, swag, the whole deal. And man, is it working? And if Rick Pitino, who has been to 7 Final Fours, 3 with Louisville, 3 with Kentucky, and 1 at Providence, he's about to go to the Final Four, if my estimations are correct, with a 4th team for the 8th time, okay? I know that we all know that none of this stuff is by accident, but you cannot dismiss how special what he is doing this year is. It's just terribly special. And Kansas and Bill Self, like, I can remember when Villanova won its last 2 championships. Both times they beat Kansas. They beat Kansas in the Elite 8 in 2016, and they beat Kansas in the Final Four in 2018. Like, if you mean business in the tournament, you're going to have to go through Kansas at some point. That's just what happens. And that's almost like a rite of passage to winning a championship. And I thank St. John's for 2 reasons. One, I wanted St. John's to win, and I want to see, the Johnnies make a Final Four. But 2, I think they beat Bill Self just early enough in the tournament that he's going to come back and we get another year of Bill Self, because who doesn't want that, right? You love Bill Self. All right, the Pete Sousa Show, we're back tomorrow. Thanks to Chris Visser. Thanks to Garrett Ross. Thanks to everybody here at 365 Sports and the Rogue Media Network. And thanks so much to David Baroff. Make sure you check out his show, Eye on the Storm. That'll get you set for St. Johnny's. And if you missed today, we're going to post a video later in the day. Check out my conversation with David Baroff. It's a lot of fun. If you missed earlier in the show, check out my recap of the New York City radio wars right now. I know everybody's focused on the Johnnies, and I'm a schmuck because I focus on this stuff, but I find it interesting. I have since I was a kid. I was raised on Howard Stern. I just think this stuff's neat and compelling. We'll be back tomorrow. Thank you, Slovacics. We'll see you.
Bumblebee Blinds of Waco and Temple is your one-stop shop for custom window treatment, transforming your vision into reality. Choose from a selection of shades, blinds, shutters, and curtains. Bumblebee Blinds stands behind our service and products, ensuring peace of mind with our trusted warranty. Call Bumblebee Blinds today to schedule your design consultation. Bumblebee Blinds, simplifying window treatments one covering at a time. BumblebeeBlinds.com.
It's the Pete Sousa Show. Sports.
We definitely love our relationship and love Extraco. It's been an amazing experience.
They made the PPP process easier. They were reaching out to me saying, what can I do to help you? That made a huge difference because my stress level, when we shut down, to afterwards was night and day.
Our experience with Extraco has been phenomenal since the very beginning, so we love Extraco.
Nobody tells our stories better than our clients.
The difference is stark. I was rear-ended at 70 miles an hour. I was injured, had a concussion. The insurance company, they delayed. They were playing games from the initial conversation. They weren't going to help me. The biggest thing I learned through this is that you can't go through this alone. I called Daniel Stark. They were going to help me and everything was going to be all right. Daniel Stark got me 10 times the insurance company offered.
The difference is stark.
Nalgene Outdoor has been your trusted companion, fueling adventures and helping protect the planet. We're committed to reducing waste, improving access to clean water, and providing simple, safe, and sustainable products for you and your family. NALGENE.com.
Our professionals are not only experts in managing urgent concerns, but also in providing top-notch preventative health care. We're proud to connect pet owners to a vast network of licensed veterinary professionals, ready to address any immediate concerns. Book your first appointment today.
Sports.
This has been a Rogue Media Network production.